Well, she's a poet and a TV and radio performer, stage performer. Her name is Pam Ayres, and she's here in New Zealand doing a wee bit of a tour, a stage tour, but also a book tour as well. The new book from Pam Ayres is called The Necessary Aptitude, and she's with me in the Kiwi studio. Pam, hello.
Hello, Glenn.
It feels like I've waited my whole life to come up to this moment.
Well, that's very flattering. Thank you very much.
I was just talking to a couple of guests before and saying, "Oh, Pam Ayres, what do you think? What do you think of Pam Ayres?" And it goes, "My childhood."
Yeah,
is what they say.
Yeah,
it makes me think of my childhood.
Yes, lots of people say that to me. It makes me feel pretty ancient. They say, "Oh, yeah, I remember you when I was young."
Yeah. Well, see, my mum's got a record. Some of my rhymes and poems.
Yeah, that's, yes.
Which is hard
nice
to say without trying to put on the accent as you say that. And that's my memory of you a number of years ago.
It's really nice that I am associated with people's childhoods, that I've been sort of woven into the fabric of somebody's life. It's nice.
Yeah. The book, Necessary Aptitude, tells the story of your life and how you found fame early on. Well, not really early on, though, for you, was it? I mean, it wasn't just, you didn't just, you weren't discovered at school or anything like that.
No, I wasn't. I left my regular job to try and make a living as some sort of writer and entertainer when I was about 27 in 1976. I left my regular job on Friday the 13th of February 1976, and it was quite scary. But I'd won this talent competition on TV. Yeah. And
what was the name of that competition?
It was called Opportunity Knocks.
Yeah.
It was a very early sort of TV talent show.
Kind of an early version of what the X Factor.
Absolutely,
like,
yeah. It was a much more primitive version without all the flashing lights and the technology.
Probably more of a proper one as well, where people were probably a little bit more polite to each other.
Well, yeah, it wasn't humiliating. Well, I mean, I say it wasn't humiliating. You did have to stand next to a device called the clapometer, which was the most humiliating thing you could ever imagine. Because after you'd done your act, you had to go and stand by this massive thing like a clock, and it was alleged to be a decibel meter that measured the loudness of the audience's applause. And so you had to stand by it, and then the audience clapped.
Yeah.
And if they didn't like you, the needle hardly quivered up from its resting place. And if they did like you, it swung right over the other side.
That's like me saying there's an audience meter here. I can tell how many people are tuned in or tuned out at any point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably a similar device.
Yeah, it was pretty humiliating because you had to stand there and you didn't know what expression to put on your face, whether to look as though you didn't mind, nonchalance or despair or pleading or whatever. So it was a bit humiliating, that aspect of it. But I did win that, and then I was offered...
Well, you just really struck a chord, though, didn't you, really, with the whole entire country?
I mean, it sounds a funny sort of arrogant thing for me to say, but it was absolutely huge at the time. And I think it was because I was such an unexpected sort of act, because I was not the age that people usually were. I was about 27. I was spouting poems.
So old, 27. Gosh, old.
No, I mean, but I wasn't sort of 18. I hadn't just been discovered at school, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
I was about 27. I was declaiming funny poems in a weird accent.
Yeah.
And it made people laugh. And there was a huge reaction at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, the first book that came out was in the Sunday Times top 10 for 46 weeks.
Yeah.
Which was, I mean, I have to say, I never saw a royalty statement
but
that time.
But doesn't that just show that no royalty statement?
No.
Really? Why not? It was a bad deal?
I mean, pardon?
It was a bad deal. Bad book deal.
You might say that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was lovely on the one hand, but there were things which I would hope people would be protected from these days.
Yeah. But that just showed, though, that you weren't like, the one-trick pony and standing up and reciting your poetry, that the words you have had legs on paper. They didn't just need to hear you saying it or your accent or the way you tell it.
I was always worried about my poems being put in a book on a flat page because I always thought they needed me to give them the life and the humour. So I was worried about them being put in a book, but it did seem to work. And people always say when they read my poems, they can hear my voice.
that's probably true, isn't it? They can hear your voice in their heads.
I mean, if I read a book, say, by Clive James, for instance, I can hear him reading it. There are certain people who you read, but you hear them, actually, and perhaps I'm one of those.
It's a strange thing, the whole inner voice, isn't it? When you're reading, say, the newspaper or the most mundane things like an advertisement, you never think about what the voice sounds like in your head, do you?
No.
Do you think your voice has an accent as you're reading? Like saying if you are reading the births and deaths notices in the paper, is it your voice or is it someone else's? Oh,
We shall never
just
know.
suddenly occurred to me. Maybe we won't know. But okay, so then over the years, lots of performances, the whole TV thing started happening as well?
Yeah, it was a weird time, really, because I think it was all far too much too soon. I went on Opportunity Knocks. I won it. There was a great brouhaha. I was offered a 3-year TV contract.
Yeah.
A contract to do 13 3/4-of-an-hour shows for 3 years and I just didn't have what it took. I wasn't that prolific, and all these other people were brought in, these other writers who were supposed to be writing in my style, and it was horrendous, really. And at the end of the process, the TV series wasn't very successful because I couldn't write enough stuff to make it seem like mine. And at the end of it, really, I felt as though I'd been chewed up and spat out on the scrap heap, really. And then I'd sort of lost my audience because they'd seen all this bad TV and thought that was all I could do.
Yeah.
So really, I just started again, and I started to play very small venues and just work on my own and just use things which I had written myself.
Because there are some things that are always there, right? And TV isn't one of them. TV will chew people up and spit them out, but you've always got, say, for people who start off in radio, they've always got radio as the stable, or people on stage, it's the stage. So was it stage always for you?
I like the stage very much. Because it's such an instant thing. If you're dealing in humour, which I am, you can see whether it's working or not.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to move people and make them think profound thoughts on a higher plane.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make them laugh. It's as simple as that. And it's a wonderful instant thing if you say a funny line and then the whole audience throws itself forward. It's like one thing, you know, it's like one creature. It's very exciting. And especially if you've written it yourself. I've got a thing I've just written about snoring called "We Never Did It Much, but Now We Do It Every Night." And it's a good subject because it applies to such a lot of older people. And in certain lines, I can see people just throw themselves forward, and it's a great feeling when it's something that you've cooked up entirely by yourself. You thought of it, you wrote it, you learnt it, you said it, and you get this wonderful reaction.
Is it important to get that first laugh sort of in the first 5 seconds, 10 seconds or something? You know,
it's important to look confident, I think, Glenn. It's important to bowl out there and look as if you're going to give people a real good evening. You know, you don't want to go out and look timid, even if you feel petrified. And you mustn't say, "Oh, I'm ever so nervous," even if you are.
Yeah.
Because it makes the audience feel insecure on your behalf. Even if you're petrified, you have to go out there and look as though you're really on top of things and you're going to deal up something good.
This is really good advice right now for politicians in New Zealand as we're heading towards an election.
We had big. Yes, I hope they observe my words of wisdom.
Yeah, well, we've got these big television debates, and so much pressure is put on these politicians at that time, and they look so nervous and wooden, and it takes a while for them to loosen up.
Yeah, and I think they've been given so much advice that they actually lose their own selves because they're trying to remember the bits of advice they've been given about how to stand and how to present themselves. And you actually lose the essence of the person.
Do you find yourself coaching younger performers these days?
No. I don't know anybody who sort of does what I do, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll always advise children, or if they've got to do some public speaking, you know, I'll always give anybody advice if they want it, but I don't do it as a regular thing. Tell
us about your BBC Radio 4 radio show. That's still on, yeah?
Yeah, I'm about to start writing a new series.
Because that's accessible, I think, to anyone around the world. Anyone can go to the website and probably listen to that, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's called Ayres on the Air. It's me and a chap called Geoffrey Whitehead, who's a very good actor, a lady called Felicity Montague, she's a very good actress. And it's sketches and poems. It's a funny series.
Like an hour long?
It's about half an hour.
Okay.
And
Are you live or pre-produced?
It's recorded live in front of an audience.
Oh, great. So we don't do any of that in New Zealand. There's something special about that BBC that idea.
It is nice.
It is really nice.
You're all standing around with your scripts, but you've got an audience that's ready to laugh
Yeah.
as well. And if you go wrong, they'll forgive you, and they seem to like to be involved in the preparation of the thing.
Because that's often how a BBC TV series spring off. They start as a radio show, don't they?
Yeah, they do. There's a very famous radio show called Just a Minute at home, where you have to speak for a minute without hesitation, deviation, or something else. I can't remember. And they're just putting that on TV now, and it's like a national institution. It's been on the radio for decades, and it's just going on TV. So that's a good example.
Yeah, and you still you turn up on talk shows. I mean, talk shows are the Friday night fodder, really, aren't they? In the UK, you turn up on those occasionally, and
occasionally. I don't do very much television at all. Really, I do a lot of radio, and I do a lot of stage work.
How do you feel about home at the moment? Being over here in New Zealand, looking back to the UK, are we happy? What's going on?
What do you mean at home?
Yeah, in the UK, because it seems like, gosh, there's a bit of turmoil around and a bit of strife, and
it's not a very good time at home because people are very short of money because of the cuts, the great financial blows that we've had. Have had a knock-on effect right down to everybody's worried about their mortgage, and people aren't spending money. People are particularly short of money at home.
So it feels like serious times, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, and people are very upset about the amount of immigration. People feel crowded. People are worried about their homes. No, it's quite a troubled time for the UK, I think.
So now, more important than ever to have a laugh.
Yeah, I think so. And I've been astonished because I've just done a tour in the UK, and I thought people would hesitate to spend the money to come, to buy a ticket, but actually they haven't. And I find that very touching. They come and they have a good laugh, and then at the end they'll say, "Oh, we really needed that. There's not much to laugh at."
Yeah.
So I think there is that element. But I don't think it's a very happy country at the moment. People are looking at what's happening with France and Germany and Greece with trepidation because of how it may affect us.
Yeah.
And people's pockets.
Well, we're in a good vibe at the moment, coming out of the World Cup. So I think you've come at the right time, and we want to keep that good feeling going. Now, you've got some shows coming up.
Yes.
Tell us about those.
Well, I'm only doing 3 because it's just a fleeting visit, unfortunately, to New Zealand to promote my book. But I am doing 3 shows. I'm doing one in the Bruce Mason Centre tomorrow night, which is Wednesday, and on Thursday I'm in New Plymouth at the TSB Theatre.
Yep.
And then on Friday I'm in Wellington, and that's it.
Great.
And I can't stay any longer, which is sad, because the last time I was here, I came with my sister and my brother-in-law, and we had a lovely holiday on the Coromandel Peninsula,
nice.
And we really had a chance to enjoy it. But it's nice to be back anyway.
Yeah, it's a really good time of the year. Well, it's lovely to have you in the country.
Thank you.
And do check out the book as well. A nice memoir, really. The Necessary Aptitude is the name of Pam Ayres' book. Pam, thanks so much. Really lovely to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.